Hey everyone, welcome to the E2 Effective Elders podcast. E2 is devoted to coaching your elder team to win by providing biblical and practical resources in authentic relationships. E2 wants nothing more than to equip you to move God's kingdom forward in the place you're serving Jesus. Visit us at e2elders.org and please share this good word with others.
Hey friends, thanks for tuning into our E2 podcast. We're so grateful that you are. And as always, we say thanks to CDF Capital for making this podcast possible. So thanks, CDF. And thanks also to Dr. David Roadcup today. David is our guest in the podcast, and David is no stranger to anyone. David is not only a co-founder of E2, but David also is a faculty member for TCM Institute. He's Professor of Discipleship. And David has been on the faculty of Cincinnati, and just the list is endless. Over 53 years of ministry, advancing the kingdom of Jesus. So, friend and brother, thanks for being with us today. We're so grateful.
Great. Good, Gary. It's my joy to be here.
Thank you.
It really is.
The whole purpose of these mini podcasts are to talk about life after COVID. And David, what would you bring to elders? What word of encouragement and challenge would you have for our elders for life after COVID?
Yes, Gary, there are a couple of key things, I think, that would really help our elders, and maybe we could even lump the church staff in here as well. Things that they could do that would really stabilize the church and provide hope and encouragement to the church. And the first one that I would mention, and it may be one of the most important after praying for your people every day, is simply the idea of finding a way to maintain contact with the people in your church. Mm-hmm. I think one of the things that would comfort them the most and just really encourage them would be for them to know that their elders and their church staff are reaching out to them, letting them know that everything is going to be fine, that we'll all get through this together. And I think there's some critical ways that they could do that. Mm-hmm. I think the idea of taking the church's email list and maybe even just once a day having an elder or a church staff member send just a one-paragraph greeting, maybe with a verse of scripture in it, just to maintain a presence with their church while they're separated. Mm-hmm. So you can use all kinds of things, email, Facebook, Twitter, all of those things to send the messages. And then the other thing would be put together with maybe the elders and staff and maybe even some other key leaders in the church, just a telephone chain, to call the members of your church. If you're a church of 10,000, this would be very hard. But many of our churches can manage calling everybody on the phone, maybe even at least once a week. I just spoke with a church in Michigan this morning, and their elders are taking turns, and they're calling their congregation, which was about 300, about twice a week, just checking in with them. Very short conversation, but asking them if they needed anything or if there was something they could pray for. And as a matter of fact, just maybe a week ago, I got a telephone call from one of the staff members of the church where we attend, and they wanted to know if they could go to the store for us or if we needed a medication or something. They happened to let it slip, saying they were especially calling all the elderly that day and just checking on them, which I guess was a little bit of a compliment. But after the phone call, I have to tell you, I just had the warmest feeling. Mm-hmm. That it was just a phone call, but somebody was making an effort to contact me. And I think that's one thing that the elders could do that would really make a huge, huge difference.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Outstanding. So now that's happening currently in a number of churches, just like you give examples of. What do you think about life after COVID? Does this kind of contact continue when we're on the other side of the virus?
Well, I think it would be wonderful if it did. But I think that the virus is stretching us out very dramatically right now. Mm-hmm. And I think when the virus is over, I think a lot of people, kind of like a rubber band, that's been stretched, will kind of come back. It's just our prayer that a lot of churches and a lot of approaches don't come all the way back to where we were, that we see the incredible power and the impact of what can happen with people who are online and maybe who are on Facebook or on Twitter or something like that, or even just have email.
Mm-hmm.
So I would hope that in some way elders could up their personal contact with their church members as much as possible in whatever ways they feel like they can make that happen.
Not only now, but after.
Yes, yeah, very much so.
Yeah, I'm thinking that COVID-19 has been a wake-up call in a number of different ways for the church. And one of those particular ways is in this area of shepherding. I think that many times as elders, we get down into the weeds and the day-to-day operation of the church. We are doing administrative tasks that others can be doing with their administrative gifting. And we have been called shepherds. One of our names in the New Testament, poimen, means shepherd, pastor. And I think that COVID-19 has reawakened our call to be moving among the sheep. And just as you articulated, there are elders who are on the phone inquiring about people. I think that it would be beneficial for the health and the well-being of the local church for elders to still stay in that lane of shepherding, having contact with people that's very intentional and deliberate on the other side of COVID-19 as well.
Yeah. It would make a great impact, Gary. I think you're absolutely right. The more contact we have with our sheep, the better. Even after COVID is over, even things like walking through the hallways at church before and after services, just walking slowly and just reaching out, just touching base with people, just kind of letting them know. I'd like to really make the point in the minds of our brothers today that just their presence and a smile from them, just a touch, just a word of inquiry or encouragement carries so much more weight than sometimes we understand and we know.
Yes.
And so I think especially during the COVID-19, when elders are on the phone a little bit each day and making contacts, the impact of that for the members of their church would really be exponential. It would be so great.
Yes.
So I'd love to see elders even maybe take a little time and make that happen.
What do you think, David, about the opening of the doors of the church, just like our president, our governors, our mayors are talking about the reopening of the economy? Any thoughts as to the reopening of the doors of the church, whether it's where you attend or elders are leading elsewhere?
That's a very good question, Gary. And after listening to all of the news, all of the doctors, all of the stuff on the news channels, I really believe the key to that is that one size just doesn't fit all. If I were preaching in a church or an elder in a church in New York City, that would be so much different than if I was preaching or eldering in a church in Utah, And I think that some states have such a low level of infection and few number of deaths that those states could open a whole lot sooner than a place like New York or Washington or LA or Miami or someplace like that. I do think that from just watching the news, though, the last couple of days and all of the active groups that are coming to the state capitals, and letting their feelings be known, I think we've just about maybe reached the edge of now letting people go ahead and get out. And so in terms of opening my church, if I was in a low infected area, an area that did not have a lot of cases, I think I'd wade in slowly as the government tells us we can, and just take my time and try to practice spacing as much as we can. The church where I attend, we have 2 morning worship services on Sunday, and they're both really, really full. And so I'm not sure how that being 6 feet apart would go unless we added another service or 2. But I do think that as things begin to loosen up, when our churches come back, I think that the comeback will be very impactful and very powerful. People will love to see each other again.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And we will still be practicing some social distancing, I'm confident, when we are on the campus of the local church. And your phrase, wade in slowly, is a very key phrase that we we do want to test the waters and be very responsible when the doors of the church are opened once again. Good point. Well, David, thank you very much. We are so appreciative for the way that you have exceptionally served the local church for over 5 decades. You're going to be a tremendous voice for so many people for years to come. We're just trusting the Lord for that.
Great. Thanks, Gary. It's such a joy, too, to join you and our fellow elder brothers here on this particular point of connection. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. Blessings to you. God bless.
You as well.
Bye-bye.